Hey everybody, Qroo here. Welcome to the channel. I'm in Costa Rica right now, and it is not even 6 a.m., but look how light it is. That works out pretty well for an early riser like me, so I'll just let Linda sleep and try to knock out a video. We've been traveling a lot, filming for our other channel, Qroo and Linda, and it's been a very hectic schedule. But let me get back on topic here. What I'm going to talk about today is a Spanish verb that I think is super useful, but that students often overlook, and it is SOLER, which means to usually do something. Suelo desayunar a las 6. I usually eat breakfast at 6. Mi hermano suele levantarse temprano todos los días. My brother usually gets up early every day. Solemos cocinar en casa en lugar de comer fuera. We usually cook at home instead of going out to eat. As you can probably tell from the examples, this is a super easy verb to use. You just conjugate soler and then drop in the infinitive. Soler is an irregular verb when it's conjugated in the present tense, so I'm going to go ahead and give you those conjugations. They're on the screen now. Suelo, sueles, suele, solemos, soléis, suelen. You'll notice that all of those forms, except for nosotros and vosotros, change in the root. The O becomes UE. Conjugations are always presented in that order, but you won't always see vosotros. In fact, in the majority of my videos, you won't see it mentioned at all because I personally never used it. I speak a very Mexican Spanish. My wife is from Colombia. She doesn't use it. I'm currently in Costa Rica. They don't use it, although they do use vos, which is a completely different conjugation that goes with tu. And that's a whole nother video. I'm going to do a video just about vos later because I've been, well, pretty fascinated about it. All right, let's get back on topic here. This verb is commonly used in two tenses, and the first tense is the one I just showed you, the present tense. María suele estudiar todos los días. Maria usually studies every day. Suelo ir al parque los domingos. I usually go to the park on Sundays. This is just such an easy construction, don't you think? The other tense where you're commonly going to see soler used is in the imperfect tense, which is a past tense. But the meaning is going to change a little bit. It's actually going to be better translated as used to do something. Yo solía tocar la guitarra en conciertos escolares. I used to play the guitar in school concerts. I didn't actually do that. I can't play an instrument or anything. I don't know where I get some of these examples. They just kind of pop into my head. Let's take a look at those conjugations in the imperfect. See, nothing special going on here, no stem changing, nice and simple, right? Since these follow the standard conjugations for an imperfect verb, they shouldn't be too hard to remember. But if you ever want to see how a verb is conjugated in a particular tense or mood, you can do that easily at wordreference.com. Just type in the verb and then click on conjugación. As you can see, soler is super easy to use in both the present and imperfect tenses. Suelo fumar. I usually smoke. Yo solía fumar. I used to smoke. Little change in meaning, still super easy to use. Some of you may have keyed on the fact that in my first example, I dropped the yo, but in the second example, using the imperfect with solía, I didn't. Was that intentional? Not intentional? Let's talk about it. In Spanish, the subject of the sentence can actually be left out of the sentence. You don't see that in English, if it is clear from the verb or the context who you're talking about. So in the case of the first sentence, suelo fumar, I usually smoke. And by the way, I've never smoked. I don't know where I get some of these things. It's just a nice short sentence, you know, it's easy to use. Anyway, back to suelo. Take a look at our conjugations in the present tense. Do you see anyone except for the first person yo matching that? Suelo. Do you? No? So if I drop the yo, is there going to be any confusion that I'm talking about me, that the subject is I? Any confusion? No. That's why a lot of times yo is left out of sentences. But let's look at our second sentence. Yo solía fumar. Let's go ahead and look at the conjugations again in the imperfect. Now, at our first person yo, we have solía. Do you see solía anywhere else on there? Ah, yes. You see it in the third person slot, which is third person singular, which would be any third person singular item. That's also where we stick usted, the formal you. So, it's not so clear just from the verb who I'm talking about, is it? Take a look at these three sample sentences. Solía escuchar música. Solía escuchar música. And number 3, solía escuchar música. Now in the first one, I want to say, I used to listen to music. And in the second one, I want to say, Juan used to listen to music. And in the third one, I want to say, you, usted, formal, used to listen to music. If I just presented you with these sentences without any context, would you know who I was talking about? No. That's why you might want to pop the subject in there for clarification. Now, if I'm talking about myself, and what I like to do and what I did today, then yeah, I can leave it off, you know, and I could just say, solía escuchar música. And the person's hearing, I used to listen to music. But without context, it wouldn't make any sense. So I would want to pop them in. So I'd rather say, yo solía escuchar música. I used to listen to music. Juan solía escuchar música. Juan used to listen to music. Usted solía escuchar música. You used to listen to music. See where I'm going with this? So if it's not clear, don't be afraid to keep the subject in, even if it's yo. You know, they beat that into the student's head where like, leave out yo, and then they leave it out all the time. And sometimes you'll use a sentence like, solía escuchar música, meaning I used to listen to music, and the other person's like, ¿Quién? Who? One thing I want to point out about using soler in the imperfect, the past tense, to express used to do something, is that that's also often expressed in Spanish just using the imperfect of whatever verb you're talking about. For example, me levantaba temprano todos los días. I used to get up early every day. And, well, I still do. You can certainly follow that construction also just using the imperfect of the verb, but when you do that, you're having to conjugate a different verb all the time into the imperfect. And if you're not really good at conjugation, that's taking more thought. When you're using soler, you've already learned the imperfect in those tenses, right? You've already learned solía, solías, solía, etc. And you're just dropping in the infinitive to make your sentence. It's much easier. Yo solía ir al parque. I used to go to the park. Yo solía estudiar. I used to study. Yo solía leer. I used to read. Yo solía comer galletas en la cama. I used to eat cookies in the bed. See, you're just popping in infinitives. Can't get any easier, right? Keep Spanish as simple as possible, and you're more likely to reach that conversational level faster. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, just do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. And before I say hasta luego, I just want to tell those folks that are following the Cero to Conversational series that I am working on lessons 8 and 9 in Costa Rica right now. In fact, I'm probably going to film 8 right after this once I check on the missus, because the sun might be waking her up, even though she does not usually get up this early. But hey, when in Costa Rica, right? So until next time, hasta luego.